Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dylan Luss with the National Weather Service here in Peachtree City, Georgia, and this will be your weekly weather briefing for the week starting August 7th, 2025. All right, just to give you a quick little summary of our potential hazards this week. Good news, mostly green across the board. We don't have much going on this week. As you'll see, for the most part, we're expecting temperatures to remain pretty much right near average, pretty seasonable, to really truly a little bit below average, especially across north and central Georgia. We will, as we get into the middle of next week, finally start to see this, nice cooler air mass that we've had in place the past couple of days come to an end. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your viewpoint, August will actually make a return and we'll see those temperatures start to heat back up. We're also going to see afternoon thunderstorms return across the area through the weekend and into next week. So with all that in mind, the only hazard that we're looking at right now outside of those afternoon thunderstorms is going to be on Friday. I'll show you here in a minute. We do have a marginal risk that's a level 1 out of 4 for flash flooding, and it's going to be in far southeast central Georgia. We've got a little risk area that's going to clip a couple of counties down that way. So, our current conditions right now, we've got northeast winds, kind of like we've had the past several days. We've got what we would call a wedge or cold air damming that kind of remains in place across much of Georgia. And so that's bringing those cooler and those cloudier conditions into the area. So that's going to remain in place through the rest of the day. That'll keep our temperatures in the 80s, especially where that cloud cover remains locked in over the state. Across North Georgia and into the mountains, we're seeing temperatures get a little bit higher than that, still staying in the 80s, but getting into like say the upper 80s or so. And that's also up in the mountains, especially where we have that terrain kind of helping things out. We're starting to see some isolated thunderstorms that are going to pop up, and that's going to continue into the afternoon. We do have some minor flooding that's still ongoing from the rains that we had over the past couple of days. It's nothing too major, so to speak. It is minor flooding that is happening. It's primarily right now isolated to the Oconee and Okmulgee rivers, with a couple of other little rivers that are also experiencing some minor flooding, or either minor flooding or going into that action stage. That's just basically all that rain working its way through it's moved out of those, smaller creeks and streams, and it's starting to move into the larger streams and the larger rivers across the area. So that flooding will continue and persist for the next couple of days as we go forward. Outside of that, as I kind of mentioned earlier in the briefing, we are going to see these cooler than normal temperatures kind of linger at least through the weekend and into early next week. That kind of high pressure system slash that wedge that we were talking about earlier, or cold air damming that we were talking about, that happens when we have high pressure that kind of sits over the northeast United States. And in this case, we have both that high and we actually have a low that's going to form off the coast. And what happens is the air that flows around those hits up against the Appalachians, and then it gets kind of filtered down into our area. And so during the summer, the benefit of that is we keep that nice, muggy, warm Gulf slash Atlantic air mass that would normally be in place over us out of the area, and instead we get somewhat cooler air that gets to kind of filter down from the north into our area. So that's going to remain in place at least through the weekend. That'll keep our highs several degrees below average. But as we go towards the middle of next week, as we'll see, we should see basically winds start to finally turn back around from the south as a system's going to kind of approach across the Midwest, and is going to actually bring that August humidity and things like that back into the area. So looking at today's forecast, here's what you can expect for highs and our chances of precip. Again, those chances for precipitation are mainly going to be confined to the mountains of northeast Georgia and some areas across North Georgia where the sun is able to get out, as well as some portions of central Georgia where, again, we could see the sun break out enough to at least give us a chance at some of those thunderstorms. Highs are going to stay mostly in the 80s. It'll be warmer where the sun is able to break out a little bit more. Tomorrow's forecast looks pretty similar. We'll have highs in the 80s once again. Tomorrow's chance of precip, you'll see some increase. We'll have isolated thunderstorm chances across the Atlanta metro. Down in central Georgia, you'll notice that we do have some increased chances, especially as we go into, say, southeast central Georgia, and that will lead us to the marginal risk that we'll talk about here in a second. So here is that marginal risk for tomorrow/Friday, however you want to view it. You can see it just clips that little level 1 out of 4 area for flash flooding across parts of southeast central Georgia there. This isn't anything too significant that we're expecting. Basically, we could see some isolated thunderstorms that are capable of producing 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates. These could be moving pretty slowly, and so when we get those kind of rainfall rates with thunderstorms that are moving kind of slowly, we can get some isolated flash flooding that could occur. Down in central Georgia, we've also seen a decent amount of rain from the previous couple of days, and so that kind of compounds things with saturated soils and things like that down there that can make it a little bit easier for some flooding to occur. So as always, remember, if you do encounter flooded roadways, please turn around, don't drown. We never want to be driving through those. Looking at Saturday, again, looks much the same as we've seen. Highs in the 80s once again. We'll see those rain chances slowly starting to ramp up a little bit on Saturday. And then Sunday, again, highs in the 80s as we remain in that kind of wedged in air mass. And our rain chances, again, increased a little bit as we'll see a little bit better moisture across the area. Going into Monday, this looks like it may be one of the last days that we see that kind of wedge-like air mass in place. And again, our rain chances increasing once again with primarily afternoon thunderstorms a possibility. Looking forward beyond that as we go basically into kind of a longer term outlook into next week, you can see our temperature forecast is right now forecast to be a little bit above average, and this is representative of the fact that we finally clear that cooler air mass out and we do get those winds turning from the south, bringing that warmer air into the area that's much more August-like for us. One last thing we want to note is we did have an update that was released today for the hurricane season, specifically for the outlook for the 2025 hurricane season. The probabilities, or at least the number of named storms and the number of hurricanes that are forecast, decreased by basically 1 overall. So for the most part, the forecast remains pretty much the same. We're expecting now anywhere between 13 and 18 named storms, 5 to 9 of which could be hurricanes, 2 to 5 of which could be major hurricanes. If we look at the probabilities, still looking at a 50% chance that we'll see an above normal season, a 35% chance that it would be near normal, and a 15% chance that it could still end up being below normal. So to summarize, here's your weekly weather hazard outlook once again. Mostly scattered to widespread afternoon thunderstorms built in through the weekend into next week, and temperatures remain seasonable to a bit below average, but as we go towards the middle of next week and towards the end of next week, we should see basically a return to normal to even slightly above average across the area. And that's it. This has been your weekly weather briefing for this week. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us through any of the available means that you see up there. We do try and monitor all of these when we can. So thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.